Okay, on video 2 we ran out of time. We only get 15-minute segments, so I wanted to make sure that you understand, starting this video, which will not be very long, where the 17.6 miles per hour comes from. The problem that we got here at the very end, once we multiplied straight across, this is telling someone that they can travel 180,000 miles in 10,208 hours, based on being able to run 50 yards in 5.8 seconds. But this is a very unreasonable number. So what we've talked about, and we actually talked about this in the very first video, the unit rate, which is when your denominator is 1, and this is miles per hour meaning 1 hour. So I divided the numerator by the denominator, and they wanted you to round to the nearest tenth. So that's where the 0.6 is. So you can go, if someone is running 50 yards in 5.8 seconds, that means that they can run 17.6 miles per hour. Now, you are used to seeing the P there instead of the fraction bar, but that is the same thing. That's how fast the student runs in miles per hour. So what I would like for you to do is to read through this word problem and pause the video and see if you can convert the sprint of this athlete from feet per second to miles per hour, just like we did in the last problem. Alright, so hopefully you have worked this out. It does take a little bit more time than some of the other examples that we've done, but my suggestion, if you didn't do this, this may be something that you want to do in the future or do with me now if you weren't sure how to approach this problem, is highlight the units that you know and what you figure out you're going to have to convert them to. So when you read this, you have an athlete that sprints 100 feet in 3.1 seconds. So 100 feet is how far he has gone, and he has traveled that in 3.1 seconds. Okay? Now, the question says, what speed is he running in miles per hour? So our distance is no longer in feet. They now want us to change that to miles, and rather than have our answer in seconds, they would like for us to change that to hours. Okay? So there are several feet in 1 mile. So your mile is going to have the lowest number, as far as we're going to have a 1 here for miles when trying to convert this. And there are lots of seconds in an hour. So again, this is going to have the smallest number. This is going to be a 1 with several seconds when we're talking about having our fractions here, our ratios that we're setting up to convert. So let's write what we know, and what we know is 100 feet in 3.1 seconds. Alright, just pulling out the information that I've highlighted there of what I know. That's how fast he went. Now, we're going to start with, like we did the last one, let's start with our feet to our miles. Let's try to do this conversion first. So, if I want my common units of feet to divide out, since this is in the numerator, then for my next problem, or for my ratio here, feet is going to have to be in the denominator. That way I can divide out my common units. And what I'm changing feet to is miles. So that's going to have to be in my numerator. Alright, and kind of thinking to our end result here, we want miles per hour as our end result. So notice that miles is the top of the fraction. Hours will be the bottom of our fraction. So that's why we have miles here in the top when solving this to begin with. So just kind of predicting, I guess, the future, thinking about what will my answer actually look like once I get to the end. Alright, so we've got our units here, but we've got to fill in the value. So how many feet are in a mile? Well, that's something that you can look up. We are talking about in 1 mile. So how many feet are in a mile? I always remember this because remember the Titans. Coach Boone tells Petey that he's got to pick the football up when he keeps dropping it and run and ask him how many feet are in a mile, and he tells him that there are 5,280 feet in a mile, and he's going to run every one of them. So that's just one way I remember it from that movie, but there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. All right, so notice that that does give us our common units to divide out feet, and we're left with our miles, which is the unit that we need for our final answer. All right, now let's look at the seconds. We've got to change from seconds to hours. All right, so this was a little bit easier as far as conversion. We've already done this once, but you all can usually convert time a little easier than distance. But if I want seconds to be divided out, that's my common unit, and it's the denominator of my original problem, then I'm going to have to move it to the numerator of my ratio here. And we're changing seconds to hours. And if we look at what we've got here as far as our end result, our hours will have to be in the denominator so that it's miles per hour, which is where it is located in our problem here. All right, so in 1 hour, there are 3,600 seconds. And notice that we do have the seconds on the top and seconds on the bottom. The reason we can divide these out is because we've set up ratios here that are being multiplied. So we can divide out our common units. And what we have left over is our units in hours, which is what we need for our final answer. All right, so multiplying fractions in middle school, you all were taught to go straight across. So if I multiply my numerator, I have 100 times 1 times 3,600, and that's going to give me 360,000. And the units we have on top are miles. So 360,000 miles over, and then multiply the bottom. I've got 3.1 times 5,280 times 1. That's going to give me 16,368. And then the units I have on the bottom are hours, which is a very, very large ratio. So we want this in miles per hour. So we want the unit rate where we have a 1 in our denominator. So we just need to divide the top by the bottom. 360,000 divided by 16,368 is going to give us approximately, and this one asks us to round to the nearest mile per hour. So no decimals here, approximately 22 miles per hour. So if an athlete is sprinting 100 feet in 3.1 seconds, then that means his speed is 22 miles per hour. Alright, so that's the end of simplifying ratios. So what I need you to do at the bottom of your note sheets, please make sure that you answer these two summary questions. Summary question A, what is 7 pounds 4 ounces converted to just ounces? And question B, you have a car traveling 55 miles per hour, and we want what is the car speed in feet per second. So that's actually going to be the reverse of what we just did in example 4 and your turn 4. You're going from miles per hour to feet per second. So same process, just kind of backwards. So make sure you're not just copying the summary questions. You must answer each summary question.